and welcome to this evening's presentation. Very excited to be sharing with you. It's a topic that I'm very, very passionate about, getting ready for school. It's a big topic, that whole notion of transitioning your young person into big school is it's a big one. But it's I guess hopefully from this evening you're going to have an opportunity to set yourself up for success along with your young person, so that when they hit school, they'll have their feet running and they're raring to go. So let's jump in and let's get right to it. Thank you, Nicole, for your summary of my background. I think that's helpful for families as they go. Process some of the things that we're talking about. I guess let's start thinking about some very, very practical things for children. Let's, starting at the very beginning, it's all about shoes and clothes, recess and lunch. And I think the big thing around that for children is this sense of independence. It's incredibly important, and it really helps them to feel confident and empowered. And you get the introverted version of that, and you get the extroverted version of that, and it's the spectrum between the two. But it really is an incredibly important thing. So lots of practice. So when it comes to, what type of school shoes are they going to have? Are they going to have laces? Can they do them up? Being the child that is able to help their friends with their laces is pretty empowering. It's a wonderful thing to see. I myself taught kindergarten for 10 years, and it was a great admiration society that we had there, but it was such a delight to be able to listen to children help their friends with simple things like shoelaces, getting jumpers on, knowing where your hat goes, having a bit of a routine around those things, really important. And I would just suggest that you start with, between now and the beginning of school next year, is when you're going to grandma and grandpa's or going to a friend's place, even going shopping, get a little backpack. If they're already in an early learning setting, you probably already have something similar going. But ask them, we're going to go to school, what sort of things should we put in our bag? We need our lunchbox, we need our hat, we need a jumper, those sorts of things. Recess and lunch, being able to identify which is incredibly important. If they aren't in an early learning environment where that is something that the teacher's already working with them, go on a picnic in the backyard, on the balcony, on the beach, when you go for a bushwalk, any park, and just say, right, let's open up our lunch boxes, and what would we eat first? If it was recess time, morning tea time, what would we eat? Having them labelled, different coloured containers in their lunchbox that they know is recess and which one is lunch. One of the things that when I was a teacher that we often talked with the children about was, if you open your lunchbox and you see your favourite sandwich or something that's really delicious and you just want to eat that first, you then get carried away and then you end up eating the whole thing in your lunchbox, and then lunchtime comes around and there's nothing to eat. So it's really important that you step these things out. One of the things that I'm going to say quite often this evening is be as explicit as you can. Don't ever assume anything. That's really, really important. So lots of talking about, is this morning tea? Is this lunch? What do we do if we don't eat all our lunch? It's important to put those things back in your bag. The teachers, of course, will be there to help, encourage and supervise. You don't have to worry about that. But it's still really important for a sense of independence, their sense of agency in the school environment, to be able to get that right. If you've got older siblings, if your young person has got older siblings, then, get the older brothers or sisters to show them the way, what goes in the lunchbox. And they might have made lots of observations already. But as I said, don't assume that they know it. It's always about being as explicit as possible. And you've got plenty of time now, so no rush to do it, but it's really important that they do know. When it comes to homework, one of the things that I always think is a very interesting journey for the first year of school is, well, I guess, first of all, they're going to get some homework. It might be a reader, might be some sight words, which are words that you can't necessarily sound out. They're just words that we need to remember. And you're going to, there might be some maths homework that they have to do. I think the thing with maths, with homework rather, is it really is about your home life balance. You've got to remember that they've been at school for 6 hours. They've been in a learning environment for a big portion of that period of time. And they're going to come home and they're going to be tired. They're going to be, particularly in the first couple of months, if not the whole first term, they'll just be exhausted. If you pick them up, often they'll fall asleep in the car. So you really want to not be overwhelmed by this notion of homework. No, homework is not mandatory. The school is certainly going to say, whatever school that you decide to send your child to, will say things like, you really need to get this done. And that's fantastic. But what you need to understand is that homework is optional. And as the parents and as the primary carers, it's your opportunity to say and make that educated decision for your child. If there's one thing that you can do for homework, I always tell families that it's the reading, it's the literacy. It's about snuggling into bed together and reading the reader. Let them read to you. Maybe it's also their favourite book and they read parts of it to you. You might mess the words up and they go, no, that's not right. And you need to read it right, or you ask them what they might need to, where the correction needs to be, those sorts of things. But literacy is really, really important. We'll get a bit further into that through the presentation. But this point of homework is really, really important. When they come home, it's about connection. It's about listening to each other. It's about understanding that you're exhausted from a day of work, they're exhausted from a day of school, lots of experiences, some positive, some negative. So there's a lot of emotionality that's going on there. You add in a dose or a pressure of homework, and then all of a sudden, that your home turns into a crazy place. It's just not worth it. You have absolute right to be able to write to the school in a communication booklet, in whatever way that comes. Most schools have their own unique ways of communicating effectively and daily with the teacher. To be able to say, last night we didn't get it done. Of course, if you want to work and try and catch up because of other days, invite that and provide that possibility, fantastic. But that balance is absolutely crucial, and to never feel overwhelmed about, oh, we've got to do it. And this is even going right through school. Homework is about, the essence of homework and the purpose of homework is to review and to clarify the work that's been done during the day. It is not designed to teach new pieces of information to children. So it's really important that you have that front and center, and you also have that permission to say, you know what, tonight's not a homework night. Tonight is a night when we need to be together as a family. We need to stay connected, and that's really important. The next thing is curiosity above everything. One of the things that in all the years of being principal, as well as in the early years, as well as being a classroom teacher, is the children who thrive the most are the ones who are the most curious. And I know probably you're all going, oh, but they ask the question why all the time and it's overwhelming. And I guess my answer is absolutely, totally feel it and understand that. But that notion of curiosity is so important to keep developing and keep valuing, and let that just bubble up. Because one of the things that we can observe in the classroom is a curious child won't necessarily just sit there and let things happen around them. They'll go and ask questions. They'll be one of those children that put their hand up to seek clarification. And I think that's something that's very important for their learning, but very empowering as they negotiate the classroom. The next point there is read like never before. There's some beautiful research out there that you can Google around early literacy. There was an amazing study done or completed and published in 2018 around the fact that when a child is read to in a prior to school setting every single night, they enter into school about a year ahead of those counterparts who didn't have that literacy background. So it's just reading, it's demonstrating that you love books and that you love stories, you be creative, mix them up, don't finish the book, imagine what could happen, then go back and see if your imagination was right. But just love it, love it, love it. Read as often as you can. And remember, the first part of reading is just memorizing the shape of words and the context in which they're in. That's actually reading. So when they see a stop sign, they go, look, you're in the car and they go, look, there's the stop sign. They are actually reading because they're reading the context, they're reading the shape of the word, and they're remembering it. It's all part of that emergent reading. And so value that. Oh, that's fantastic. If they recognize their name, if they recognize mom or dad or their siblings' names or the significant people in their lives, then recognize that and value it for what it is. It's really important. That's the beginning stages of reading. Yes, there's the pieces of the puzzle where there's a whole bunch of phonemes and phonemic awareness and what sound does that letter make, and if I put that sound with this sound and that sound, what word does it make? The sound of k and the sound of a and the sound of t. Then you get cat. So that's another part of reading, yes, and that's a very detailed and complex and technical component of reading. But the first part is just loving it, loving books, reading at any opportunity. So I can't encourage you more around that. When I was teaching kindy, my challenge to myself was to read 1,000 picture books to my kindy children. And I had a wonderful experience where just a few years ago, they came to me as adults. They found me and social media, and they said, oh, because of all the books that you read, we just totally loved literature. And I was just so chuffed and proud, and the experiences that came from that. So do that. It's really important. I think the other thing that you can do to try and get inside their minds is to let them be the teacher. You be the children in the class and play a little bit of a social role-playing game and find out what it is that they think school's all about. And it's very, very, very curious what you discover. But what you are able to do is you're able to celebrate the things that they've got right. And you're able to put right the things that you don't think are quite right. It really is a fun way of learning about what they know, but also a fun way of helping them to learn some more information about where they're going and what they're going to be doing. There are some really clear readiness cues, and interdependence is one. Self-regulation is another, persistence and understanding that they are capable. There's some really good, clear cues. So interdependence, it's the fact that they can ask for help if they need it, whatever way and shape that is. But that they've given it a go first, that's really the piece of interdependence. The second one is that self-regulation is quite different to self-control. Self-regulation is, what do I do with the stresses that are around me? So if I'm a bit worried, what sorts of things can I do? If I'm feeling a bit like I need some help, what do I do in those situations? So self-regulation is super important. Persistence, if your young person or your child is saying, oh, I can't, what you want to do is you want to try and navigate where their thinking is coming from around the fact that they can't do quite possibly something that they should be able to confidently do. And if they can't do it, which is okay, might be the first time or they haven't quite got it right, the strategy then is linking back to persistence is, okay, I'm not going to give up. So who around me can help? At home, who are the people that can help me? At school, who are the people that might be able to help me? And being able to articulate that is really important, because it really empowers persistence. And persistence is one of those things that is really easy to get right prior to the school setting. And then once you get into school and our bodies grow and develop and our minds are creating neural pathways and networks, it does become more of a challenge. Not impossible by any means, but we always know that setting these things up earlier is always best. And I think last is that the children know that they're capable and that they can be confident. It's not about always coming first or, that type of thing. That's not what it's about, but it's about the fact that when I give it a go, I'm going to give it a go. And everything that I have, it means that I can try something. I don't have to be worried about what might come next. Let's move on to the next one. So some of your questions were about, bullying and how do you deal with tricky situations? Well, it's a great question. I think we jump back to that point that I said earlier, is that idea of that social role play. If someone's being bossy, if someone is not, they feel like someone's being unkind to them, what are the strategies? What are the things that they can demonstrate to you through the role play at home when you're just having a bit of fun? What are their strategies to unravel that? It's that fun time, it's that playful time with people that they feel safe and secure with that really helps them to set up some strategies within themselves for them to have go-tos when the rubber hits the road, those tricky situations. The other thing too is you've got to remember that they are 4 or 5, so they're going to have a blinkered experience. So if your child comes home from school and says, oh my gosh, I've got no friends and nobody likes me, the first thing that you want to do, of course, is you want to validate that the fact that they're feeling worried or stressed, or it's really impacting them. So, and that's really important that you do that. Man, Matt, it sounds like you've had a really tough day. Give them a hug, draw them close, remind them how important they are to you. The second thing then to do is to reach out to the teacher through the proper protocols that the school will offer you, and they always do at enrolment. They tell you exactly how to do this, is to then reach out and say, this is a scenario that my child has come home with today. Could you shed some more light on it to get a bit of a better understanding? One of the things that I know in my early learning school, and also when I was a classroom teacher, children don't, at that age, their names aren't that important. So you might say, oh, who did you play with today? What was their names? And that, I don't know. And they generally don't care. They're just having a great time. So it's about making sure that we ask questions that are helpful. Did you have a good time playing with, a friend today at lunchtime or recess? Those sorts of questions. And again, if you get the blanket no, go, okay, well, let's check in with your teacher and let's find out who we can have a play date with, or we can build some connections. But if you've got a competent teacher, I can nearly guarantee you that the story will write itself in a flash. My experience, that's always what happens. And so reach out to the teacher through the proper protocols and find out what's going on before then you have that big reactive response, because your big reactive response needs to come here. I love you, I care for you, and yes, it's really hard. Let's get the facts right. Let's get it straight. Let's go to the teacher. Let's find out what it is. And then 99% of the time, the conversation is, this is who you play with. Remember doing that? Oh yeah, that's right, I did play. And then you obviously have some names, and you'll have some scenarios, you'll have the way the teacher followed it up, and you'll have those core pieces of information that you can help build and strengthen that child's perspective and understanding around those complex situations. But the social play prior to school, even talking if they're in early learning settings, to be able to ask them about how they go in terms of getting themselves solving problems and getting out of sticky situations. Of course, if they've got older siblings, even younger ones, that you'll be able to observe some of that for yourself, and you'll be able to say, you know what, they go from 0 to 100 straight away. So why would that happen? It probably means that there is not enough strategies in between for them to access in a stressful situation for them to be able to jump into before they go to 100. So it might be, you know, when someone takes something from you, for example, and you don't like that action, what are some things that you could do? I could come and talk to you. Great, fantastic. And what's something else? I could use my words and ask for it back. Those sorts of things. Again, it's that explicit process, stepping it through step by step. And yes, you will have to repeat yourself over and over again until they master it, until they get that right into their mind, so that when those tricky and those sticky situations come their way, they've got some real tools to, first of all, to self-regulate, but then also to solve. And that is absolutely achievable, 100%. I've had lots of parents say to me, you know, can they do it? And yes, I've seen it year after year after year, absolutely. But it's got to come with practice. And it comes when the best outcome is when those people where they feel safe and secure with, they're able to test and strategize and theorize about what is the way that's going to work best for your child. But it's got to be explicit. You've got to use your words. Step 1, step 2, step 3. You and I might think, wow, it's a big task. Yes, it is, because you're teaching life skills, and life skills are big tasks. The next one there is holding a writing tool comfortably. One of the things at school, by the time they get to school, they are going to want to have your child to use the tripod grip, which is like this. It's the thumb and the top 2 fingers. The reason why schools and OTs ask for this is because you've got the most amount of flexibility and your muscles don't tire as quickly. Developmentally, they're going to, you know, they when they're, you know, 3, they might start writing like this and, you know, holding it like that. That's all fine, but where we want at that age, but where we want them to get to is this tripod grip. And it's really important that they do have that nice, comfortable, easy approach. You want them to not have to tire. Now, once you've shown your child how to do it, rather than going and correcting them, you want them to self-correct. That's the most important thing. So an example you might say, is that how you know, mum or dad or grandma showed you how to hold a pencil? And for them to stop, that question will alert them that there's a problem. And then they might look at you, and then you might grab a pencil yourself and demonstrate and how to hold the pencil. Fantastic. Rather than that self-correction, that correction, which is the last point of reference, where you want to then manipulate their hands for them. You want them to put the pencil down, for example, and then pick it back up and see if they can get it. Now, you'll find you might need to do that a dozen or so times, and slowly they'll start to get that grip right. Now, the reason we want that, as I said, it's flexibility. The muscles aren't going to have the muscle fatigue. You're going to hold the pencil without having to squeeze it to pieces. If you don't have that grip, then you might find that that's, oh yeah, my hand does get tired writing. Although now most of us do more typing than handwriting. So, you know, that story might change a little bit. But for young children, it's important that they have that grasp. Another thing which is incredibly important at this point is making sure that physically their physiology is correct. Physiology is how you pronounce it correctly. And so go and have their eyes checked, go and have their ears checked. If you haven't done it then for a few years, then do it before they go to school. Absolutely. It's early intervention is best. And we'll talk a little bit more about the significance and the importance of that. But just go and have it checked. It is well worth your time and the effort to get that right for them. And, you know, remember that with speech that there's hearing and there's talking. So there's in speaking. So there's two parts of that. They should be able to be, their vocab should be well and truly, developmentally correct. You can Google that from Speech Australia, and they'll give you exactly what the framework is in terms of expectations and milestones. Got any questions? Go and ask. Now's the time to ask. It's super important. The last point there is about sharing ideas around relationships. How do you build friends? How do you create friends? And this is equally as important for the shyest of shy person than for the most outgoing. And we go, oh, they'll be right. One of the things that we find is that that explicit talking and strategizing and how do you make a friend? How do you be a good friend is really important. Talk it through. Again, like I said, don't assume that it's just going to happen, because being a good friend and making friends, they're very different skills. And so you need to make sure that for your child's sense of agency and confidence in school and in a much bigger environment, they're probably coming from a room or a space, a learning space where there's maybe 20 or 30 children, and then they're going to a morning tea or a lunchtime space where there's 500 children. Wow, it's such a big difference. So having those strategies and being able to observe them at parties or at a park or at a family gathering is your way of being able to make those observations to go, yep, bang on track. Or we need to do some more conversations. We need to have some more social role plays. Now, are these things important? You bet your bottom dollar they are, because every single piece of, when we come to work, when it comes to sporting arenas, when it comes to building friendships and relationships, when, you eventually get to, social media world and technology, these are all the pieces of the puzzle that are going to be the foundation for how they roll these things out. So you take the time now when the foundations and those neural networks are forming, and you get those foundations solid and firm and correct, and then they've got greatness to build upon. It's incredibly important, and it's such a delight to see children growing and forming when these are key parts of their foundations. So there for the children. Now, what about for the parents? You are as equally important as this journey. So I think one of the things that I always talk to families about is, what are your expectations for your child's school? There is lots of different types of educational institutions out there. There's ones that are very, very industrial, where you've got the teacher out the front and you've got everybody sitting there and, observing the teacher and following their instructions. And then you've got all the way to the other end, where the teacher is facilitating individual educational programs. Neither are wrong. I have my personal belief around where the greater outcome and greater results are. But whatever you choose, what you need to understand is that you match it around what your expectations are. Because if you really are very passionate about a particular type of education, then you need to make sure that the school that you're going to or that you've chosen is going to offer that. Because 9 times out of 10, the school they've got a vision, they've got a purpose, and they've got a mission, and they've been working on that for very many, many years, and they're unlikely to turn around and change everything just to suit you. So, and you can understand that from like your businesses and your business perspective, and there's certain things that they'll be able to manage, and then there's going to be certain things that they say, this is what we are about, and it's very important for us that we maintain that integrity. So have you matched those expectations? Really important. What strategies have you set in place to prepare for the transition for your family? And I think they're very, very important steps. And we're going to talk a bit more specifically about that in a few minutes in terms of very practical terms. But for, as you move out of the early learning environment and you move into the first year of primary school, what are the steps and the strategies that you would put in place so that school routines are ready, they're in place, people are feeling relaxed? Those sorts of things are essential for children who are starting school for the first time to be able to go, it's all good because I know what's happening. I understand step 1, step 2, step 3 of my day. It empowers them. It reduces anxiety. It reduces the release of cortisol in their minds. The amygdala says in the base of their brain, it's all good, everything's under control, let's have a great day, rather than that freeze and that fright and or flight even. So that's really important that you get those transitional pieces ready. The next one then is, have you interviewed your principal? Now, I really recommend that you do that. You go and you talk to them. I've got a couple of questions for you. Ask them about what's their vision for the school? How are they going to help your child to flourish? Great question, really important one. And you could even say, how can we be part of the school community? How is that valued? There are ways in which you can make that appointment with the principal prior to your child commencing school there. So they will definitely make the time when you follow those protocols. But I would definitely do that. Meet the principal. They're the ones who are going to guide the professional development of the teachers, the culture of the school, how the families connect with the teachers, all those sorts of things. And you want to get to know them, what they value, what's important. And again, that helps you to understand, do those expectations match? Year after year after year, I hear parents who are frustrated or disappointed or feel like that they don't understand many of the school's choices. And I always ask them, first of all, did you take some time to go and meet with the principal and just get into their mind and find out what they're excited and they're passionate about when it comes to education? And virtually 100%, 99.9% of them say, no, we haven't done that. And so it's a very important interview to do that. The next thing is when you meet your child's teacher for the first time, make sure your child is with you and show that you trust that person. Lots of laughter, ways of connection, join your child in. Maybe they could bring a joke to tell the teacher, but your child will be watching you. You know this already, but they're going to be watching you and they're going to be wanting to know, mum and dad, or whoever is their primary caregiver, trusts this person. This person is someone that is, I can feel relaxed around and I can feel safe with. And it's really important that you do that. It's a wonderful way to create safe and secure transitions from prior to school to into the school. Now, your child will be invited to kinder orientation if they haven't already begun to do that. Make sure that you go up and you say hi and you connect and you demonstrate to your child, because they will eyes up and they will be watching and they will be listening with their ears as well, and they'll be modeling their thinking of the connection and the relationship with the teacher by what they learn from you. So super important. I think one of the things that we often, can imagine coming home from work and your partner or significant other says to you, oh, so why did you make that choice today? And you're like, because I did. Being curious is really important, but asking it in a way that is open-ended is really important. So tell me about your day. Tell me about your time at recess. Tell me about who you sat next to in class today. Tell me about what the funniest thing that your teacher said today. It's a great way to just unlock all sorts of potential ideas and thinking. One of the things that a lot of parents say to me is like, my child gets home and I'll get, yep, no, yep, no, no, yep. It's partly to do with the type of questions that we ask. They might not be as, you might not have narrowed down your thinking. Think about yourself, get home, your significant partner says, how's your day? Yeah, good. And then you kind of go, well, that was it, unless they narrow down. So think about what sort of questions. A great one that I like to use is tell me about recess, tell me about said friends, tell me about the teacher. And it's a great way of just letting them be the guru of what it is that they want to share with you. I think another thing there is to make the school a very familiar place. Obviously, older siblings, that's very helpful. But if you're the first and only, or you're changing schools, take as many walks around the school as you can, even if it's walking past the front gate, if there is still some COVID restrictions in the school that you're going to, or make it time to go on tours with the school registrar, because often they are allocated times. Walk around, talk about with your child about what the possibilities are. It's incredibly important to do that. The more familiar that they are with the space, then the more confident that they'll feel. And again, it doesn't matter where they fit on the introvert, extrovert, self-control, self-regulation, spectrum. It comes back down to the fact that we always know that when we know our routines and we know our spaces, we feel safer. And so I think that's really important. And of course, then the next point there is about those rituals and those routines. What do we do before we go to bed? We get our bag ready, we get our clothes ready, then we go to bed and we snuggle in, have some story time. We wake up, we do our, of course, clean our teeth. Then we wake up, we put on our uniform that's there, we have brekkie, clean our teeth, we go to school. Everything that we need for the next day is already in our bag. We're not running around in a panic, because again, that will only add to the stress. And the more that you set those rituals and routines up, and that through you use those rituals and routines as points of connection and conversation, dispelling myths and talking about opportunities and demonstrating your excitement for them, it will really help them to just lower their stress levels and start to be expectant and excited about what might happen. We talked a little bit about this before in the sticky situations. Always check in for what actually happened. When you go home, your child comes home and they share a big story and you're like, wow, if that's the truth, we're in big trouble. Seek clarity from the teacher first of all, because what you want to do is you want your teacher to be right on site. You want them to be your biggest ally through this first year in school. So draw them close and ask them about, this is what happened, this is what I've been told. Could you clarify? Can you help me to understand it? Get that bigger, wider, deeper, richer picture, and then you'll be able to move on from there. You might need to then make an appointment with the coordinator and the principal to clarify, something that's, a relationship breakdown or a bullying situation that's really significant. But you go in there with the facts, and that's more important than the big emotions. And also remember that your young person is watching you and you're demonstrating great strategies on how to deal with tricky situations. Find out what happened, we seek the information out that we need to, and then we create a plan together to support and to facilitate change. Again, keep the teacher in the seat of the expert. Ask them about what they've observed before you go in heavy, hot and strong. Clarify, just seek what was done, and make sure then you are able then to support your conversation. Because what we know is that nearly every time a difficult situation occurs, our mind just starts to close in and go, oh, I've got to focus on what's happening right here, right now. And I think that's really important, that then once the story's told, validate it, like we said. Wow, that's big, that was hard, that must have been a really tricky day today. Let's find out what happened, reach out to the teacher and follow the protocols. All right. I think we've already touched base on those, but just one point there that I think it's really important to make is that the more that they're familiar with the environment that they're in, the more that they'll be, and they touch base around that persistent piece, and they're able to self-regulate, and their sense of agency is starting to be strong and really start to flourish, then what you'll find they are able to confidently navigate the classroom as well as the play environment. And I think that's something that I've observed time and time again. So if you've got, if your young person is a bit of a worrier, for example, then find out, and which I'm absolutely sure you already know, those triggers that are going to set off some of those big questions for them, and start to, through those social role plays, start to nip those things in the bud so that they're able to keep that self-regulation exactly where it needs to be, as flat and as regulated as possible, because they've got the systems in their own mind to create support, but also to those people within the school, you, their teacher, their friends, their buddy, all those sorts of things. I think we've kind of mentioned those. I guess that's my reminder to tell me that where we're up to. I think there are still some COVID restrictions and some COVID considerations out there in many schools. And I think that one thing that you can do, if you haven't already done it, is, and I really encourage you to do this, is to reach out to the school and through a phone call and find out how you can already start to come in, to become familiar, and what is the best strategies to be able to support your child through this process. It's super important to do that. I think above all, as children are moving out of, you know, the home life and early years life into school life, it's this notion of the circle of security. Where is their secure base? Do they know who it is? You want it to be their teacher, want it to be their buddy, you want it to be eventually become one or two of their friends, all those. Start to understand and create some that knowledge about what the letters on the page are. If they can identify them, playing some sounds, snap, they're fun games to play. Don't have to do it. It's not an essential. The only thing I always say to families is that if it's fun and it's delightful and it draws you together and it enriches your family time, then have a great time with it. But if it adds undue stress and complication, then now's not the time to be doing that, because that's not what this getting ready for school is all about. But just love literature and love stories, and take them into bookshops and go to libraries. And, you know, lots of local libraries have, you know, the librarian having reading days, and they have visiting authors. Check it out, go and hang out. I know both Woollahra and Waverley Council have got some great libraries, so maximise them and use them. When it comes to numbers, it's great if they can count on their fingers. What that is called, the title is one-to-one correspondence. So, you know, you've got one pair of glasses, well, the number that matches that is 1. If I have 2 pairs of glasses, then the number that matches is 2. That's great. Lots of patterns. Patterns are really important. They're fundamental in when it comes to building our understanding around numeracy. And so I definitely go and create patterns. They certainly would be doing some of those things in the preschool program if they're in an early years environment. Find patterns in nature, just lots of things, you know, singing patterns, body patterns, clapping patterns, moving patterns, dancing patterns, all those sorts of things. Is it important for them to write the numbers? Not essentially, no. If they can, amazing. If something that you would like them to do and it builds connection and capacity in the child and their sense of agency, and it's go for it. But as we know, the research says that by the time they get to year 2, virtually that everybody can read, everyone can write, everyone knows numbers. So then it becomes a real leveling thing. So at this point, the key to it is connection, relationships, building a sense of agency and self-regulation, capability and persistence, sense of worth, and that, you know, the people in my life who really love me, they know and they want to celebrate me. And you're using literacy and numeracy technology, go for it. I think it's lots of fun, but it is 100% not essential for starting school. So I think we've touched on those things. Here's something that's I think is incredibly important, and this is the special needs. And there's the special needs of where your child, you feel like that there's a missing piece of the puzzle that's not sitting right, and you're like, okay, I might be a language thing, it might be a hearing thing, it might be a physical milestone thing. Early is always best. And at this point, if you know what school that you're going to and you're aware that your child has a particular need that you would like to have addressed and considered by the school, then my suggestion is to reach out to the school, meet with the principal, meet with the special education team, and start to share about who are the key contacts for your child to support their development and their transition into school. Early intervention is always best. And this goes exactly the same if your child you've noticed that they're particularly gifted in a particular area, and you're like, I wonder what is the best way to support that type of learning. Same strategy. Get involved and talk to school. Be transparent. Don't keep things hidden. There is nothing worse than for a teacher when they hear that, something hasn't been disclosed on the learning development of a particular student in their class, because it really makes their job so hard, such a challenge. So always early is best, and be transparent. Don't hide things from the school. They're not going to judge you. They are there to help you. And the more that you lean into that as families, the more you're going to get the response that you want. If you just stand back and wait, then you're going to putting a lot of pressure on the school to be managing, that situation. And really, it's fundamentally so much more beneficial for you as a family and for your child if you're able to lean into that and just get connected. Ask how to stay connected. It's really important. And of course, couple of questions here for you to ask the principal when you have those early interventions. What makes your school the right one for my child and the developmental needs? Super important question. And how can we partner with you to facilitate my child's needs? Because that way it provides a wonderful opportunity for success right from the get-go.